Most advice on how to stimulate the G-spot that you see online is really bad advice, really bad technique. The vast majority of that advice, including from so-called sex coaches and sex educators. The way to stimulate the G-spot that you typically learn online is going to feel horrible for a woman inside the vagina. It's going to make her hate fingering. So here are the biggest 7 mistakes that you learn from advice online on how to stimulate the G-spot. Avoid these big mistakes and you're going to make a woman feel much better when you stimulate the G-spot. I'm Alexey Welsh. I work with women as a sex coach and a sex educator. So this is not just something that I think works well for my girlfriend. This is from the experience of thousands of women that I have worked with. Bad advice number 1 that you receive in a lot of places, using 2 fingers inside the vagina. Crazy advice. Terrible advice. Do not follow it. There are some women who will enjoy you using 2 fingers straight away. For a lot of women, if you try to use 2 fingers straight away, it's going to hurt. It's going to ruin it completely for her. So you have to use 1 finger first, warm it up, stimulate it with 1 finger first, and then halfway through, you change to 2 fingers. With some women, you will never be able to use 2 fingers. They will always hurt. You're going to completely ruin it for her. You can only use 1 finger with her for good. You can never use 2 fingers with her. The way you should stimulate the G-spot always is to start with 1 finger, even for a woman who enjoys 2 fingers, because it will still be nice for her to build up that anticipation and then to change to 2 fingers. Bad advice number 1, you see everywhere that you should go and start doing this movement on the G-spot. This movement is only okay later in the stimulation. It's going to feel weird for a lot of women. It's going to feel too much and it's going to feel uncomfortable for a lot of women. And they're just going to feel like you're working them, like you're milking her like a cow, like you're not really interacting and communicating with her. You should build up to that movement. At first, you need to use other movements like just contact with the G-spot, just a bit of pressure, escalating pressure, a little bit of movement on the G-spot, and only later, in the last part of the stimulation, the most intense part, you start using that movement. This way, the woman will have a lot more sensitivity in the G-spot. You're going to give her a lot more pleasure this way. Bad technique number 3. People just tell you to go and start stimulating the G-spot. You do not start just stimulating the G-spot with a lot of intensity, with a lot of strength straight away, because you have to build up in intensity. You have to start with more gentle sensations, with softer sensations, and build up little by little your movement, the strength, the pressure of your movement. The way the woman's body works is that if you start immediately with strong stimulation, strong sensation, at first it might feel nice, it might also feel not nice, it might feel too much or unpleasant, but it might feel nice and then it will soon drop. It's only if you are progressing gradually from weaker sensations to stronger sensations, she will keep her sensitivity, she will keep feeling sensation, and she will keep feeling more and more. So starting with too much is always a big mistake. Start with little and progress to more gradually. Now, a little footnote that I want to include here. You might have done these mistakes with a woman and you might have done it not in the way that I recommend, and it was okay and she enjoyed it. Let me explain to you. Women feel in many different ways, and yes, with some women it is okay to make these mistakes. It's okay to do it in this way that I don't recommend, and they will enjoy it. But for a lot of other women, it will completely ruin it for them and it will be horrible. But even for the women who enjoy it with these mistakes, and they enjoy it in the way that I recommend against, if you do it the way that I suggest, they will have an even better experience. So you will just do a more advanced, a more enhanced experience for them this way. Mistake number 4 and bad advice number 4 that you see everywhere, just go and start stimulating the G-spot with the same movement all the time. We talked about this movement already, but any movement. If you repeat the same movement all the time, it is going to make her go numb. She's going to lose sensation because it is boring for her body and for her mind. You always need some variety of movement. You can't just use one movement. You have to use a few movements. You need to rotate between them. This way you're constantly refreshing her sensitivity. You keep her senses sharp. You are not numbing her out. So even in the intense phase of stimulating the G-spot, you would not just use that movement. You would use it together with some pressure movements, some vibration, some rubbing. So you need to alternate movements all the time, and that will build more pleasure. If you need more ideas for which movements to use, you can check out my full program for men. I give very detailed demos there of the entire stimulation. You can learn all the different movements, how to build them up in the right progression, and you will also learn everything else that you need to know about sex with women. The link for that is in the description below the video. Mistake number 5. Stimulating only the G-spot. Now, I know this video is called How to Stimulate the G-spot, but in real sex, if you just, zoom in on the G-spot and you stay only on the G-spot, it is not going to be a good technique. And yet, that is what everybody is teaching you, to just start stimulating the G-spot and just keep going at it on and on and on. If you just stay on it and you don't get off the G-spot at all, you're going to make it more numb again. The body will lose interest, essentially. So you need to get off the G-spot sometimes and go and stimulate some other areas inside the vagina. There are other areas inside the vagina that feel really amazing for women as well. You can watch my video on different sensitive areas inside the vagina. So even for a quick moment, if you go to another area, touch her a little bit there, and then come back to the G-spot, this refreshes the sensitivity in the G-spot. She will feel even more there from that moment. So it's important to do that periodically. Get off the G-spot, touch somewhere else, come back to the G-spot and continue stimulating the G-spot. It does not break the sensation for her, it increases the sensation for her in the G-spot. And while we're on the subject, there is no point in just stimulating the G-spot, only the G-spot, because there are actually a lot of techniques that allow you to stimulate the whole vagina at the same time, all of the sensitive areas of the vagina at the same time, including the G-spot, that will give her a lot more sexual energy than just stimulating the G-spot. So why would you focus only on one area? Again, if you're interested, I cover all these techniques in my online course with detailed demos. Mistake number 6, doing this movement wrong. At some point in the stimulation, you will start doing this movement. It works well. It's a good, strong, intense movement. But depending on the place where you see this advice, you will be taught well, or you will be taught a really horrible and painful movement that just really hooks into her vagina and is going to feel really horrible to women. It is not a hook. You are not doing it vertically. It is a slide. It is a slide with pressure. And mistake number 7, trying to make her come everywhere where you get taught stimulation of the G-spot, you will be told, to try to do it to make her come. If you have this intention to make her come by stimulating the G-spot, this intention becomes real energy. It really communicates to her. She can feel totally clearly that you are trying to make her come. Then she feels under pressure. Then she feels stressed. Is she gonna come? Is she not gonna come? It becomes stressful for her and it shuts down the feeling. It's gonna be infinitely more difficult for her to come. So you should just focus on giving her one really nice sensation in every moment to keep sending that sexual energy into her body. She will feel that mindset that you have just to make her feel really nice in this moment. That will relax her. She might even find it easier to come. And if not, then she might start experiencing the ongoing flowing orgasmic waves from the G-spot, just really strong sensations of pleasure that keep flowing. That might be even more satisfying to her than a typical climax that everybody is, teaching you to give her. Or she might just have a really nice experience that will still mean more to her than, working really hard, being stressed and trying to come. So if you do all these mistakes, a woman is going to feel horrible when you're touching her G-spot. Avoid doing these mistakes and you're gonna give her a much, much nicer experience.